Down payment assistance and rate buy down programs is what I want to go over today. Before we get into all that, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. So, first thing to go over is down payment assistance, and what that is there's like 2,000 of these different programs all across the nation, and a lot of it's going to come down to your loan officer and the lending institution that's involved and how much they can help you through this. But I want you to know it is an option. It's available, that's out there right now. And like when we get through harder times, like higher interest rates, slower in a market, the economy, you got to start exploring some more of these things in order to get into a home, get going into a home, start paying your own equity instead of paying a landlord. A lot of it comes down to like renters or lower income people that don't necessarily have a lot of cash saved up, is who this typically applies to. So I want to talk about those few of those down payment assistance programs and how that works and some of the catches and caveats to that. I'm not a loan officer, so honestly, in a lot of ways, whoever you're working with loan officer wise, which I have a lot of good recommendations I can give to you, is going to be the best person to talk to when it comes to exactly the details and the specifics of those down payment assistance programs. Just know that they are out there and that you can get approved for these down payment assistance programs if you don't necessarily um, have the cash saved up. It's not the end of the world. There are programs and ways that you can get into a house and start making payments on a home that you own, that you live in, as opposed to renting and all that kind of thing. And it does make sense financially to do this just to get going in the home ownership game, the equity game on everything. And I'll be honest, like most of the time, what I've seen this apply towards is more towards like the 150 and under price range of homes in Wichita. And you can still get some pretty decent homes for that price range to get you going in your starter home and home ownership and equity appreciation so that you can live in that house for a while to upgrade into the next one, the next one, the next one. You're not going to typically start out in the 200, 250, 300 price range unless you're already doing fairly well financially, is just the raw truth of all this. And so typically those down payment assistance programs don't apply as much because you can't make too much money on these things to qualify for everything. So, I just want to put some of these options out there to provide modern solutions to modern problems we have. And one of those I've seen is down payment assistance programs. That's part of it. The other one right now with going into the winter market where it's a little bit slower, listings aren't selling as fast, and some of these different things is sellers and listing agents are typically more open to putting things together, like negotiating in your closing costs being paid for. And then also one of the newer ones that really probably is going to be the biggest one that I could see is 2-1 rate buy downs going forward. Because a lot of these buyers, if they could get a lower rate and the monthly payment made sense, they would buy the house. But that's usually the bigger concern or the bigger problem that they're having, is not that they don't have down payment or closing costs, is that the monthly payment's too high. And they're like, I don't want to pay that monthly payment for the next 30 years. And I'd give them the asking price and have all the other things lined up, but I don't want to pay $1,500 a month for, $150,000 house. Like that's too much. But if you can go in there and you can negotiate in a rate buy down from the seller, and let's say you got to ask for $5,000 or $10,000 worth of concessions from the seller in order for this to make sense to work for your buyer financially, like so be it. If that's what you got to do in order to get a deal done, and that seller really wants to sell and they'd rather take 140 on a house than nothing. Like these are some of the type of offers, negotiations that a good agent and a savvy buyer can do, and we'd be open to. Like if it's the right time in your life and it's the right house, but we just got to work out some of these financial considerations. Like that's where a good agent like myself can negotiate, structure a deal creatively to see what works for you to be able to get into it where it makes sense and to get the home sold for the seller. Because if this house isn't selling, like, and it's sitting on the market a little bit longer, that's where these sellers and these situations are more open to exploring or accepting these type of offers, and deals are going, because obviously like they're not getting fully what they're asking. They're not getting the ideal situation. So this is where they have to be open to not as favorable situations, but it's also leaves the door open for you to negotiate more, leaves the door open for you to like get more deals done so you can get into a home, get going on everything. Especially if you can do these 2-1 rate buy downs, are probably one of the coolest things I've seen in a while. In a lot of ways, like I'd probably do those for the rest of my career, buying them, knowing how the 3 to 5 year flip game plan I use works out. And it's kind of like, in 2 to 3 years, just I'm probably going to be in a position where I'm going to be looking at selling that home anyway. So if I can get the first year, and how these 2-1 buy downs work, and let me kind of explain why they call it a 2-1 buy down, is because the first year it lowers your interest rate by 2%. The second year it lowers your interest rate by 1%, and then the third year it goes to wherever the interest rate was at on everything. So it helps you in the short term to get into a home, start making payments. The idea is you make more money, you're more established, you have more finances saved up, you're in a home and you're paying hopefully less than rent than where you are now, or you're just in a much better financial situation, but you have the temporary relief up front in order to have it make sense for you to buy a home then. And then over the next 2 years, the interest rate charge goes up. But this is the other catch side of those 2-1 buy down programs too, is that it's like, obviously the price of the home is going to be higher then, but you fixed it, you locked it in 2 years ago. So it's like, if you have an attitude like, oh, I'm going to wait for interest rates to drop, or I'm going to wait till things get better. The truth is though, like prices are still going up. So let's say you do wait till interest rates are lower, like they could be lower, but your price is up. So you're kind of in the same boat anyway. And you didn't get to participate in all the equity gain, the appreciation, all those things come with it. So if we can get you an interest rate 2% lower right now for a house that works, would it make sense for you to buy right now? A good amount of buyers would say yes, because that'd put them in about like the 6% interest rate range. But a lot of agents and a lot of buyers don't even know about this or aren't even promoting it to the seller, to where we're getting ready to go to our sellers and listings and start having them promote it ahead of time and just put it out there to say like, hey, we would offer you a 2-1 rate buy down, as a qualified buyer with an acceptable offer. Obviously there's got to be catches and restrictions and all that stuff, but you got to come up with a solution that's at least an option for these buyers to actually want to offer, move forward on it and go forward with that. And if you are a buyer, that's something to consider to get things more in the affordable payment range that you can get, is that have your agent negotiate in ahead of time the 2-1 rate buy down for the seller for the house that isn't selling isn't necessarily a bad house. It's just that it's tough to sell a house right now. And usually that's more of a financial concern and constraint than it is necessarily like the house. So if that makes sense in your personal life, the house works, but maybe the payment's a little bit high, consider negotiating in a 2-1 rate buy down that the seller pays for. Because what you may not realize as a buyer, as a buyer's agent, that a ton of these sellers have a lot of equity in their home that we can use in order to make deals happen, as opposed to just offering less or having a seller reduce the price. Because in a lot of ways, it makes more sense and it's more beneficial for that buyer to get their rate bought down than to offer less on the home and to pay less for the home on everything. So that's a big one that I see is going to be a huge deal going forward for buyers to get into homes and to get homes at the rate and the payment that they can afford, for sellers to get their homes sold with everything that's going on. So it's definitely a big one to consider, is these rate buy down programs. Then obviously there's down payment assistance programs that can go into that, and then the usual negotiating and closing costs and that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, like, we got to creatively put deals together, wheel and deal and negotiate. And that's what a good agent will do, more than just opening the door, order processing, that kind of thing. The good agents know how to really come up with modern solutions to modern problems. We're not really like salespeople like you guys think of us. We're here to create sales, but it's like, we're not this like pushy, forceful, aggressive salesperson. We're here to come up with solutions for you that work for your life situation and the seller and dealer, or seller and listing agent, and kind of mix and match and move all the complicated moving parts around until we find something that works and fits on everything. It's very complex. It's very complicated. It's not crazy. It's not hard. It's just that there's a lot of things to move around and process and deal with from a mental standpoint and an emotional standpoint with people. But hopefully these 3 things have kind of helped you assess some options for buyers and also listings to get them sold, between down payment assistance programs, negotiating closing costs, and then negotiating in 2-1 rate buy downs and some of those other creative deal structuring things we can do. But if you'd like to give me a call and talk about your personal situation, what we can get figured out there, I'd be happy to help. I love getting the calls, or sign up on my website, look at some houses. Let me know about where your personal situation is at, whether it's right now, in the future, next year, that kind of thing. And hopefully I'd get to talk with you soon, and we'll be in touch. Go from there. Appreciate you watching. See ya.